we're going to start the committee of whole meeting on the fire hall. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? No? Okay, we'll get into the design of the RFP for the design of the fire hall project. We've looked at several designs, okay, and we had a report that we got just before the start of the last meeting that everybody's had a chance to look at. We had the original proposal. We reduced it to around $8,000 and asked for a one-layer cost. And I'd like to, out of today's meeting, be able to ask staff to prepare an RFP for design and build, okay? And we needed to decide what equipment we're prepared to put into that, and roughly what functional space. Is that fair for everybody? Okay, so let's start with equipment, and I'd like to give the fire chief. We may ask the fire chief a couple more questions relating to whether we have 3 pumper tankers or 2 pumper tankers, and if the fire chief would like to even comment on the difference between the two and how that would improve our yeah, can we move that out there just so that yeah, what it would mean if we had the 3rd pumper tanker.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why this is being rehashed, but this has been in 3 surveys, and so basically we need a new truck. So we want to go with a pumper tanker from here forward because they're just more diverse. So we have 2,400 homes here in the community, over 200 businesses, and a great big huge pulp mill in this backyard here of ours that we need to protect, plus our citizens. We also need it for liability. It's been recommended in 3 surveys, and it's just, we also need it for be more effective on fireground operations. We need it for water shuttle services where we don't have fire hydrants. We need it for transporting a firefighter. We need it for protecting our own municipality. We need it because the taxpayers that are already paying for the fire service aren't really getting it, and that's the taxpayers on Bass Lake Road, Lee Valley Road, Apsey Lake, all the outlying areas where there is no fire protection with hydrants. So they're paying for fire protection, but they're not receiving a proper fire protection. We also need it for both fire trucks that we have right now are going to be currently 20 years or older next year. And we also need it for our wildland fires, for fighting bush fires and as such. So we have lots of reasons for the 3rd truck.
Anybody have any questions of the chief? I have just one question.
Yeah.
Typically, when we go out for a fire there now, do we have enough people who show up to fight these fires to man a 3rd vehicle? So if we had one, it would be generally. Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to crunch those numbers this morning. I just got that request tomorrow, but yes, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Bob?
I think I've asked this question in a previous meeting. I obviously support keeping the truck. We would, if we keep the truck, then we can go about training and qualifying our department as a shuttle service.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
We can get accreditation through the underwriter's insurance.
And that may have an effect on the insurance rates of the people, of our residents.
It will definitely keep them from going up, if anything.
Okay. That's good, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions of the fire chief? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so right now we currently have 2 pumper tankers and 1 rescue vehicle. What's the consensus here for adding a 3rd pumper tanker in the design of a fire hall? Ron?
I had thought about it, Your Worship. We talked about that back a couple months ago here. And it doesn't cost us anything to keep an old truck, but it does. It's always maintenance. First thing you know, it's in a rotation for renewal every so many years, just like the other 2. And it also reflects the amount of square footage we have to put into the fire hall building. So there is a cost to it. And with that in mind, I don't think I'm looking at increasing the fleet. I'd like to stay with 2 pumper tankers and a rescue vehicle, but that's my opinion.
I feel the same way.
Ken?
Well, it is the extra cost. Another driver is needed. Mike says he has those, but there's always a problem. There's a maintenance of the vehicle, and at some point, if we have the room for it, the future councils will put a replacement in there, and that's going to be a big cost to the taxpayer, which I don't think is necessary. And it's also an added cost to the building.
Bob?
Well, I've already stated I actually favor keeping that unit, probably because I lived in the country and I know what it's like to not have enough fire protection. I don't think it's really going to change the cost of the size of the building all that much. And you got to think of the future. There is probably going to be more construction out in the outlying areas than there is here. And it would mean going right back to the drawing board again. I mean, we got the truck. Yes, there's a maintenance cost associated with it. It's not very much. It doesn't cost anything extra to drive it because we pay our volunteers a stipend and it doesn't matter how many times they go out. It's really, I think we serve the residents well by keeping the truck. You know, it's paid for. And yes, we will have to replace it, but why would we, as long as we have a unit that is less than 20 years old, it doesn't have to be replaced with a new unit. It can easily be replaced with a used unit, as other departments have done. There's plenty of them on the market at any given time. And, you know, the cost is greatly reduced. So no, consensus, I kind of disagree with the 3.
You agree?
Your Worship, we discussed this before, and you know my belief on this is that if there is an outside fire, this is not a good thing to say, but we would not make it there in time anyway if it was 5 or 10 miles away. And we have to get ready, get out there, and the whole 9. I think it was what, 10 minutes with 10 employees or 10 firefighters in order to save a home. I don't think we'd fall within those parameters. And then, of course, the chief brought up maybe bushfires or anything of that nature. Well, that's not really the town's position to fight bushfires. We're not equipped for that. There's a lot of things that we're not equipped for when it comes to bushfires. I used to fight bushfires.
Okay, we'll continue. Well, just hang on a second till Ray's finished, okay?
And yes, it won't cost much to have this truck, but it's going to cost for space. So when you add everything up, I believe the cost is a little more than I think the town is prepared to give at this point in time, simply because we're looking at a turnover for other departments, and I think we're going to need our funds in order to do that. It's just not a good time for us.
I'm going to allow the fire chief to offer some more input, if that's all right with everybody on council. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I can't believe I'm actually hearing this stuff. There's firefighter safety here, guys, and above and beyond anything else, if you don't care about the firefighters of your community that protect you and your property.
Okay, point of order. First of all, we're going off the beaten path here.
No, it's not.
I don't want to hear this.
Excuse me?
You don't come up and give an opinion like that. We don't care about somebody. You're insinuating we don't care about our people? How dare you?
Okay, hang on.
That's
okay.
not right.
Hang on.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
We asked the fire chief to offer an opinion here, okay? we may not, so we're gonna allow him to speak, okay?
Okay.
So, we do fight bushfires. We actually have a contract with M&R to protect part of our municipality for bushfires. Do we need an extra truck for that? Yes, it would definitely help in the biggest sense. When we're talking about our firefighters here, they've got nothing in ever. We're not asking for a whole heck of a lot. We're asking for one more piece of apparatus so we can do our job better. And what's the difference it's going to make on the fire hall is going to be very minimal, because the new truck is going to dictate the new fire hall regardless. So I'm quite concerned with where this looks like it's heading.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody? Bob?
Yep, I think that, gentlemen, I honestly, I have to agree with the fire chief. We serve our residents very poorly if we don't keep the third truck. It's just not a significant cost. The town is in a fine financial shape, as we can tell looking at the budget that we'll get into later. And here's what I was looking for. No, it isn't. I'm trying to find, I know that we have a substantial amount in reserves dedicated towards the fire department, because this carry-on has been going on for years. And really, I actually thought several months ago we had decided already to keep the third truck. So I think this is a matter of serving our residents properly and our volunteer firefighters, and making sure they have the equipment to do the job. And so, you know, I really think council ought to rethink that. Like I said, I thought 3 months ago or 2 months ago this had been decided, that we were keeping that truck. Because everything I've done since has been with that in mind. Fire hall.
Okay, I'd like to add.
Thanks, Bill. Sorry.
Okay. I'd like to add something, okay? The difference between the space required in a fire hall for one additional vehicle is somewhere around $150,000 to $200,000. And the additional maintenance costs per year on that vehicle are going to be fairly minor, okay? I agree with Ken that at some future date, I don't think we want to have go out and buy a brand new vehicle that would become the third one, but a used vehicle makes a lot of sense, okay? We're going to be using a vehicle that will be 25 years old, and these vehicles come up. We're not under heavy use, and then we have a lot of fires a year. But for about 10% of the cost of the building, we're going to give, out of this, we're going to improve firefighting capabilities for areas that are further away. Some of these house fires or trailer fires, okay, where we don't have hydrants, do have the potential to start a forest fire near the community, and having improved capabilities in that area, in my mind, makes a lot of sense to turn around and maybe be able to fight something to the point where we can stop it from spreading and taking other parts of the community. So, and that's where I sit here, okay? And Ron?
You know, I listen to the chief and I see his point of view, but I also look at the taxpayer and I see their costs. And I know if it's a fire that we have to call in the ministry, we've done that on more than one occasion. We also have mutual aid that nobody brought up here. Salt Spanish River and Baldwin, which have pumper tankers that are available to come if they're called. They're not always called because sometimes they don't realize they need them, or they don't need them at all. But they are available. And that's part of having mutual aid, is so when they need it, we send our trucks there, and when we need it, they'll send them here. And I think we don't utilize that as much as we could to help offset costs for both municipalities.
Okay. Is it all right if we allow Bob?
Just one point. I think we've got to be careful how we rely on mutual aid. That's not a money-saving method. That's mutual aid is meant for emergency use, and we have an emergency, and they will come and help us as we would go and help them. It's not to save anybody money. There's still a time factor involved in a truck coming from, normally I think Baldwin, although I know Saubles has come at times too. I really think we're being short-sighted and short-changing residents, and penny pinching beyond belief on this one. I really do think we need to think about this one. Like I said, I thought it was decided anyway. And that third truck is for the cost of involved over the course of time, a few dollars a year literally, is worth keeping. There's far more benefit to having it for the minimal cost that's involved.
Is it all right if I allow the fire chief to make another
Yep.
comment? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, good, thank you.
Two, if I may, Your Worship.
Yeah.
One, mutual aid is designed for the fires that are above and beyond your capable means. The municipality is responsible for providing fire protection to its residents, if it's so deemed so to provide this protection. You've deemed it necessary. You are responsible for providing fire protection to the entire community. That being said, mutual aid can be called for the above and beyond call, like the Cortina fire or the Tudhope fire, those kind of situations where it taxes your resources to the max. So relying on mutual aid is not really an option except for those fires. We've been relying on it because we don't have the resources. So again, and those resources aren't always available, and there's no guarantee they're coming, and there's no obligation for them to come. And mutual aid is just a mutual aid thing. There's no obligation for them to come to our fires ever. Secondly, the cost of a pumper, even if we put it at $400,000 over a 30-year span, which our trucks are lasting, it works out to just over $13,000 a year, which is cheaper than a cruiser. So I just want to kind of put it in perspective that the cost of a fire truck over the lifespan of it is not a lot of money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I guess the question there is if we're going to prepare an RFP, do we want to think about this a little bit more, okay, and or do we want to try to settle this right here and now? I think we should, this is just my personal opinion, okay, I think we should put together an RFP. We can have another discussion of this at council with either three pumpers, tankers, and we can either pass it or not pass it at a council meeting, or do we want to make the decision right now? Bob?
I thought we had directed staff to prepare, I know we directed them to prepare the specs on a truck, a new pumper tanker, and I thought we had directed them as a result of preparing the specs was to prepare the request for proposals at the same time and bring it to council already. I thought we were already at that stage.
For the truck?
Yeah, for the new truck.
I'm talking about for a fireball, for whatever.
Yeah, oh, well, you're talking about fireball. I'm
Yeah,
still
I'm
playing with trucks.
Fireball, yeah.
I'm still playing. We can't decide on the haul unless we decide on a truck, to be in all
Yeah.
honesty.
Yeah.
For what little cost it is going to be to keep the third truck. In all honesty, we can't decide, and this has been going on since 2008.
Yeah.
And we need to decide on the equipment before we can decide on the haul.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And don't forget, this is for 50 years, okay? So we're talking about making a decision for future councils as the community changes, as maybe more and more housing moves into the surrounding areas there where we may not have sewer and water. And if we make a decision that makes it very difficult to add a bay later on for something, I don't think we're doing a community a good service.
I know we could get more housing out in the surrounding area, Your Worship, but if you remember, we don't allow much more housing in the surrounding area because we don't have plans of subdivision with sewers and water. They get under a setback and whatever, and it gets more difficult to put housing where we don't have services when they go for plans of subdivision. So, I mean, you get hit and miss, and I think if you looked at it, the biggest strip development was probably on the Lee Valley Road, or whatever they call it, Barber Street Extension. Out the other way, there's been hit and miss off of severances off of large parcels, and I think the most are allowed, if I remember right, is 3 on a parcel, severances. And I think a lot of those have been utilized already. The only ones we get are people buying vacant pieces of land and building one residence. But you know, you're saying for 50 years, but this term of council is up this fall, and the next term of council come along and decide we're going to put the old truck into a rotation where we start changing them every so many years. And we should be prepared for that, because when we say we're keeping it, we're depending on the next council to possibly do the same as what we're thinking, keeping old used vehicles, and they may not.
Okay, Bob?
Sorry, are you done, Ron?
Yeah.
I thought Bill was answering something.
Oh, okay.
Well, but Bob stuck up his hand.
No, carry on.
Well, I was just gonna say, that's true, but hopefully, all councils are doing what they think is best for the community, okay? And we can't, I don't think we should be trying to box them into not being able to be flexible or make some decisions in the future. That's just my opinion on that. Bob?
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And this town, like practically every other community in the country, probably in the world, has not been thinking of future requirements as much as they have present day, which is why we have a $60 million infrastructure deficit, which we now see, this council and other councils have had to grapple with and will have to. And yeah, we can't hamstring a future council. We're just not, I think we're being very short-sighted. We need to decide on the equipment so we can get to work on the building. If we don't decide on the equipment, it's pointless to carry on talking about a building. And I think we're just shortchanging residents and doing them a great disservice today and in the future if we don't keep that extra truck. We have to go, if we decide that we're going to go down to 2 pumper tankers and the rescue, that means back to the drawing board, more time spent and lost in this year's construction season. And it's really a very minimal cost to have the 3rd truck, which we know we can man, which will be a benefit to residents, both financially and for their safety. So there's obviously been some misconceptions about what services the fire department provides. We do provide wildfire services. More water the better when it comes to being out there on Lee Valley Road. I can tell you what a fire's like out there anytime and how fast it can go. And a little bit of water goes a long way. So I really think we need to resolve the equipment issue either today or whatever. Or we're back at what this town's been doing since 2008, and partnering around with the fire department. Oops. Thank you.
Okay. That's not necessarily true in terms of time, because we were delayed for 2.5 years in this term and we didn't do anything.
No.
You agree with that, Bob?
No, I do. But, and it may have said it wrong, but I'm just saying,
Okay, I just want to make it clear.
I'm saying we can't go anywhere. All I'm trying to say is we can't go anywhere until we make one decision.
Exactly, that's a decision we have to make that I didn't take it for granted too. I asked about that if we had decided on the trucks, and we hadn't. And I was surprised when I seen this drawing with the 4 bays in it. So that's the first thing we have to do is decide how many vehicles we need, and then the building around it.
Yeah, I kind of thought we had. That's really what I thought.
And we hadn't. We hadn't done anything except approve the vehicle, the new fire truck.
We had sort of talked about it, and it appeared to several of us that it looked like we had a consensus, but...
Yeah. We had talked about a number of things,
Yeah.
but we hadn't brought anything, this committee as a whole, we can't do anything, we didn't bring anything to council except direct staff to, for a truck.
I agree, and we never got to the point to do that.
That's right.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question, Ray?
Just one other thing, Your Worship. This town once had about 5,800 people in it. I mean, we all got our opinions, and we all have, we were talking about this, and the truth remains it had 5,800 people at one time. We did with the fire hall we got now through mutual efforts and so on and so forth. I mean, we're looking at less people. We're looking at 4,996 people today, which is, and maybe less coming up. In fact, that's what I saw, was less people in the future. For us to be looking forward, we have to be looking forward with the anticipation we're gonna be building. And that's not the case right now. I mean, we'd like to see that, for sure, but we can't build things for what we'd like to see. We wanna build things that's practical for today. And I'm sorry, that's just how I feel, and it's my opinion.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the question again, okay? Are we talking 2 pumpers or 3 pumpers, okay? And so we can at least tell staff what to put into an RFP. Is that okay? Is that all right with everybody right now? Okay, Bob?
3.
Ray?
I got, no,
So you want 2? Or you haven't made a mind up yet?
I'm looking at this, and it's not something I want to see. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking 6,400
Yeah,
square.
but you gotta go with
But
trucks first.
I know, but
So I'm just asking because that's fundamental. If we haven't defined the equipment, we can't go any further, okay? It's pretty hard to go any further.
so okay. So give me that question again, just to make
Okay.
sure I'm right.
I'm asking you want 2 pumper tankers or 3 pumper tankers along with the rescue van to go in it?
No, okay, that's what I thought you asked. I want to stay with just the one.
With the 2 pumper?
Well, the
tankers?
ones we have now, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, versus the one we get rid
Okay,
of.
so you don't want to increase it?
We don't want to increase.
Okay, Ron?
2.
2.
Ken?
2.
Okay, so that's where we sit. Okay, and the other part of there is we had a design that was laid out, several designs that were laid out. We had a little bit of comparison of the existing fire hall to the proposed. If we go to 2 pumper tankers, we're going to save around, I'm guessing around 800 square feet per apparatus. That will knock some around, and I'm just guessing somewhere around $160,000 to $220,000 off of the cost of a fire hall. Are we satisfied with the space allocations roughly for the other areas, like admin, training and stuff like that?
We didn't have, I like that presentation we had here the other night, your worship, by Lignum Builders, I think it was. I like the layout. I don't think the chief had a problem with that layout, at least he didn't have right, he said, it was functional. I like the layout, I like the idea of the bays in the center, and things built around the sides and the back. I'd like to see 3 offices in it, about 5. And I'd like to see 3 bays. But I like that layout.
So out of 3 offices, who are we going to?
Roughly 7,000 square feet.
Out of those 3 offices, so we're going to make 1 for the fire chief, 1 for,
Our public works manager.
okay,
And an administrative assistant.
okay. Do we want to have any area where someone can come in and do some planning for fire planning? Okay, some of these offices
I
have
think we're gonna
that.
have I mean, I don't know how formal this fire planning is gonna be. We're gonna have a large kitchen, we're gonna have a training center, with tables possibly, and whatever. I think we can utilize some spaces for whatever else it has to, without building an office that may be utilized periodically.
Okay. Anybody else have anything to offer? Ken?
I just have concerns over the training room. It's necessary, but I'd asked the chief if it's going to be used for formal training or physical training. One of the questions I asked former councilors is, why don't we rent out the auditorium in the complex? Because that was the idea of it, and most of the answers I got were similar. We didn't want to have conflicts with the service clubs. And in this, one of these proposals of, an earlier one anyway, the thought of a big training room, and there's a number of ideas here, provide meetings, uses training. It should should be used as training for firefighters especially, but host meetings and be rented out, well, it's kind of redundant. If we're not using our facility that costs us quite a bit, the auditorium, we should be using that for training. That's a better spot for formal training. Physical training, definitely, they need a spot that's suitable to them. But to start renting it out and bring in a fire emergency training from all over, that should be what the auditorium and the complex is used for. That's my opinion.
Okay, anybody else? Bob?
I think the training room was also going to be the emergency, serve as the backup emergency center as well. They've reduced the size of the training room. I think that idea of renting it in meetings and stuff, I think that was one from a previous plan. I don't think.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so I think that one's been set aside, and I agree with you, it should have been set aside. And I don't see this training room as being, I think they said 50 people, and I think that's probably a pretty good size. You get
It's about 900 square feet.
yeah, it says, I think, and I'm just going with the number of people, it said it was good for about 50. I think you get, it's well served with 50, because I noticed the training sessions, you're seeing 25 to 28 guys out a lot of the time. And there's the chief, and plus you've got, if you bring anybody in, you need some space as well if you're doing handling of, say, first aid training, just for the first thing that comes to mind. So really, I don't think the size of the building is inappropriate of this other spaces. I guess what I'm saying is, this other spaces are fine by me. An adjustment for a bay size is all that's required. That's the way I see it. Thank you.
Ron?
I think it was the chief that mentioned that he would like to have had more room because maybe we could possibly need some money to bring other fire departments in for training. I know our people have to go to Gravenhurst because it's hard to get in there. There's so many fire departments in all these municipalities trying to get in there at the same time. But it's probably one of the only ones that's funded by the province, and that's what makes it affordable. Sudbury could do the training, but it's very costly because they get no provincial funding. So we can't afford to send our people there, as well as other small municipalities. But I don't think if we're going to do it here, we can do it any cheaper than Sudbury either. So it would probably be something that would be utilized mostly for ourselves, this training room. And with that in mind, I don't think there's a problem. Like I said, the offices and the bay gone, I think brings it down to 7,000, and that's almost double what we have today.
Okay, so you're saying 7,000 once with the bay gone,
Yeah.
which really effectively leaves the other spaces about what we've laid out.
And 3 offices instead of 5.
Yeah, yeah,
That brings it down to about 7,000, which is almost double what we have now.
yeah.
That's quite an increase, I think.
Oh, and I was looking at this, the lockers and everything. I know we primarily have males, and it still shows, like, for the lockers, an equal amount of both. I'm pretty sure we could, like, put 6 females on the one side, and I think we'd get by with that. I think there's just an extravagance here that,
Or it may very well be that you've got to have more, bigger lock area for the men, okay?
and that's because
Move the wall.
Okay. Anyway, but,
so.
I think,
yeah.
sorry, I think that now we're just trying to.
Hang on there, Bob,
Oh,
just
sorry.
a sec. Ray, go ahead.
I lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to make it a little bit, it would make it a little smaller, and I think, you know, if we can get around 7,000 square, I guess that'd be okay, but.
Okay, Bob?
I think we're starting to get to micromanage. We need room for at least 30 lockers. Whether 6 of them are for women for women or 10 or 12 of them, doesn't really matter. We need room for the same number of lockers. And how that gets broken down, I think Perry and Perry just split it in half for probably the ease of splitting it in half.
Okay, Bob, or Ron?
I agree with Bob. I think we want that many lockers, and Perry, we have just decided half and half. If we have 24 males, we just move the wall over and whatever.
Yeah,
We end up with the total.
that's what I was
Okay.
essentially.
So do we have a general consensus here outside of the bay that the other spaces were overall, the total area was pretty close to what we would be prepared to accept? Okay, so I've got if it's all right, I'm gonna try to end this meeting with a resolution, if that's at all possible. And we may want to, okay,
Direction maybe.
okay, and we may probably want to modify this, but I've got a resolution, be it resolved that as recommended by the committee in the whole, that a request for proposals for a design, build, fire hall project be prepared, which will include the functional requirement, including in the Perry architect's report. Now, we can put in a little thing in here at the bottom. Those are the functional requirements. Apparatus bays for.
I like that every design with 3 bays.
Yeah.
I don't know how the rest feel, but I like that design with the bays in the center, 3 bays, and 7,000 square feet.
Yeah. Well, I think we're trying to define the square feet, and then we can go out and ask people to design and build, and how they may come up with some other designs that are more desirable, but we need to meet the functional requirements.
I think Cynthia.
Okay.
Oh, it was more or less answered. I was just gonna say, we're not really approving any design here. Right?
No, just roughly square footage, I think.
Or could I put down, okay, so let me read this again. Request for proposals for a design, build, fire hall project be prepared, which will include the functional requirements, including in the Perry Architects report of April 20th, 2018. That was for 8,000 square feet, but it was also for 3 pumper tankers. So we've decided that we're going to go with 2 pumper tankers and one thing. I don't know if I need to adjust this and okay. So what I'll do.
Verify what council.
Okay.
Bill, if I could suggest, let's not limit it, let's not try and lock it at its exact square footage.
No.
Let's have a range, 7 to 7,400 square feet, whatever, something like that. And it's a design build, so let's not even think about, we want 2 bays or 3 bays or however we want it. Let them bring something to the table.
We just want something that will hold 2 pumper tankers and a rescue van.
And the square footage of 70 to 74.
Okay,
Well, I
so
68
now-
to 72.
That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, 70,
Yeah.
around 72.
68 to 72.
Okay. Okay. To include 2 pumper tankers. Space for it. And 1 rescue. And total area of 6,800 to 7,200 square feet. Okay, so I'll read this here. A request for proposals for a design, build, fire hall project be prepared, which will include the functional requirements included in the Perry Architects report of April 20th, and that was based on around 8,000 square feet.
And 3 offices,
Yeah,
because their report showed 5.
yeah, but they're going to provide that overall space, okay? Submissions must meet the requirements of the OBC and be able to accommodate on the existing property. And I got after that to include space for 2 pumper tankers and 1 rescue, and a total area of 6,800 to 7,200 square feet. Okay. Any more discussion on that?
I just like, we're not saying they're pre-engineered or anything else.
No,
You can decide on that after.
that's up to the quotes, I think.
No, well, I mean, because after what we saw here, that there was a possibility to build it with that other plan and have more insulating in it, more insulating value, I like the proposal, because that's gonna cut down energy costs.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do here
Just the design.
is design and build and let people use their imagination. One person may give us a footprint, 2 stories, beats all the space. Another one may go with a certain size footprint, pre-engineered. Someone else may come back with a stick build. It gives whoever's quoting some flexibility to use their imagination and come up with what they think is an effective build.
So now, our staff is gonna prepare this?
Yes, then we have to approve it before it goes
Okay.
out. Is that
No.
fair?
We will not write the RFP.
No, but we will get it done?
Yeah.
And then bring it back to us?
For us, yeah.
Or, you know, we'll have a look at it before it goes
Sure,
out?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, is that all right?
Yep.
Okay, I guess I better initial things here.
It looks like Ron. I think it's Ron.
All those in favor? Okay, and be it resolved that the committee of the whole meeting is hereby adjourned, and it's 2:10 p.m. All those in favor?